Didn't that psalm sound preciously like the Beatitudes, Psalm 37? Let's just review once again. And the suggestion I make is go back over scriptures that seem impossible. But the writer, ultimately the Lord inspiring these writers, is sharing a truth that only God can do. But if we let God do it in us, wonderful things can happen. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret. It only leads to evil. Fret's a good word. We can identify with it. We're kind of uncomfortable. We're moving around. We're fretting. It's a struggle in which the energies are bouncing back and forth within our heart and our soul. For the wicked shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. Yet a little while the wicked will be no more. What do we do in the meantime? How can it be that nonviolence creates a violence? Let's hear what Luke has to say about all that. I say to you who are listening, that's an automatic kind of thing. Sometimes we listen, but we don't really, yada, 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 yeah. We're used to these phrases from the Gospels. Do good to those, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who asks of you. And if anyone takes away what is yours, do not ask for it back again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. There it is, that golden rule. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Or even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you expect to receive payment, what credit is that of you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. Instead, love your enemies. Do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for He Himself is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. There's another line from the Gospel. As God lets the beautiful sun, like this morning, shine on the evil and the good. There's no discrimination. So maybe it's an image when you see the fidelity of the sun. Maybe that's a clue to how we're meant to shine out who we are at every moment. Be merciful, just as your heavenly Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Does that work for you? It's so easy for us to offer our opinions, our judgments, our perception. But don't even worry about it. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. when you go to a well, this is the gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. When you go to a well with a bucket, you get as much out of the well as your bucket's size. The bigger the bucket, the more you can draw out. So we're invited to let the horizon or the limits of our heart and our giving to be infinite in a way. Since if we start putting limits on the golden rule or exceptions or that kind of thing, then what's going to happen is we're blocked from the outer fringes where the truth of God is, when there seems to be no limit. I was thinking about a possible sermon title: to forgive or not to forgive, to love or not to love. It sounds a little bit like the speech, the famous soliloquy of Hamlet: to be or not to be. That is the question section of that. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles. The question for Hamlet was, do I murder my uncle who murdered my father? He struggles with that question: to be or not to be, to kill or not to kill. And then, of course, there is that question of Hamlet's, do I commit suicide? Is implied in that soliloquy. So all of these questions that bothered Hamlet and frustrated him and didn't give him answers are all based on the question of to be or not to be. For the question of to love or not to love, there's no question in Jesus' mind as to the answer. Don't fret. What do I do? Just love. And let that form a kind of smooth over, Vicks Vapor Rub, if you want, over our souls, so that those questions don't bother us, no matter how much we're bothered by how the current world situation is. Notice it. Limit your input of news. That's what I do. Limit it so that it doesn't overwhelm us with the more dark energies. Just decide to pray for all the people that you cringe. Just pray. It will keep your... It's not easy. In fact, some people think it's really impossible to do that kind of thing. For God, nothing is impossible. And if you're in touch with God, or you let God be in touch with you, maybe that's the issue. How do we let God be in touch with us? One way is to just say yes to the beauty and power of your own existence. And when you wonder, how come all of this happened? How come I happened? Dwell in the power of the wonder of that until you just stop asking the question. I talk every once in a while about the sun. I want to show you a picture of Voyager 1. That's a blue back, pale blue dot back of Voyager 1, 3.7 billion miles from the Earth. It's the last picture that they took before it went out into interstellar space, and they wanted to preserve the energies of what they think they could produce or get in touch with by shutting the camera off. So that's the last thing. That's the Earth. Just a little dot that we can see from that picture. And the overwhelming pictures that come from Webb telescope, the Hubble telescope, these marvelous inventions that allow us to peer into way, 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 way back. The furthest we can go is 13.8 billion light years. You know what a light year is, right? It's how long the passage of light takes to get to us. So we're never looking in the present. We're peering way, 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 way back into the future. In a world where the sun is 7 minutes, 8 minutes of light to get to us, and the moon is like a light second and a half. So it's incomprehensible. The same God that has made this world and the miracle of the little pale blue dot created you. Without you being consulted, without you being wondered or wandered. But there it is. The more I suggest that we stay in touch with the mystery, can't solve the mystery. Excuse me. We can't solve the mystery. It's just pure mystery. But it's real, because look at the day. Look at the days are getting a little bit warmer. We'll be up in the upper 40s and 50s pretty soon. It's been a relief from a very, very cold February. But just relax and trust that the God who created the morning, morning after morning, the God that created you in your mother's womb, that God is going to continue to do miracles through you. So if we can embody as best as we can, and we can't do it because it's impossible, to really warm up to your enemies. It's not possible. But for God, nothing is impossible. So we just let us live as though God, who created us really from nothing, and yet we're all particles of the same infinite powers of genes and microbes and molecules and all the things that we can go deeper and deeper and deeper with electron microscope and really peer at the point in which particles are turning into energy. We can't see it any longer because it's no longer a particle. Interesting stuff to just appreciate the wonder and the mystery of our universe. There's another variation of the golden rule. If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. Very simple. We yield to the facts. We yield to not our opinions or our judgments, because we'll get hit back with the judgments we make against, but to have a feeling of pure, unadulterated love, which then goes into compassion. Don't the people that we dislike need more compassion? Give it to them from the heart. Pray for them. Do good for them as best that we can. So, Lord, I just thank you for the opportunity, Sunday after Sunday, to offer what I hope you offer to the people, to give a voice as our songs give voice, as our music gives voice, as our loving greetings give voice, that love is the answer. So, what about the issue, though, of the violence, of nonviolence? If you don't respond violent, it doesn't call forth from the enemy a similar response. But what frustrates the heck out of enemies is when we don't respond. That really gets to them. It's a kind of violence. When Mahatma Gandhi was lining up because they had taken some salt that was not governmentally correct. And there were, if you remember in the movie, where teams and teams of soldiers came and smacked them and beat them. They didn't respond in violence. People would just come and carry them off. Hopefully they will get better. But he didn't compromise in any way with violence, because that provokes more violence. But the violence of nonviolence is it frustrates the heck out of. I heard an interesting interpretation of when they hit you on the right cheek, turn the left cheek. It's a nonviolent response to violence. One commentator said, in effect, you're saying to your enemy who struck you, your first attempt has failed. Would you like to try it again? That's a provocative statement, and not everybody would necessarily say that. But the statement that you're making to your enemy who struck you is you do not respond in kind. You respond in kindness. And that makes all the difference. Frustrates your enemy. Eventually they'll give up, like they did with the lines and lines of people coming to hassle, to beat on those that were needing salt. I took little by little. What happened? India became independent. Takes a while. Takes a long time. It takes a long time for the wrongs of the world to become right. So let's give it all the time it needs, because love is eternal. And if we never stop loving, guess what's going to happen? Love will win out. Justice will win out. Kindness will win out. Compassion will give out. Will live out. And then you have this joy, which will never stop.